I have a massive problem. This is 115 terabytes of slow mechanical hard drives that cost me over $5,000, plus I have a $1,200 a year Google Drive bill. Something has to change because not only does this hurt my wallet, but working from these drives is terrible for productivity. But I think I have a solution. This is the Ugreen DXP 4800. It takes 112 terabytes of storage, allows for remote access, and should have some pretty incredible speeds. Now, this video is made in partnership with Ugreen, but I don't want to give you guys any marketing fluff or hype. It's simply my experience of using my very first NAS unit from start to finish to see if this unit can solve my problems and finally help me organize my digital life. And in this video, I'll share actual, meaningful speed tests and benchmark to see how this unit would perform for you so you can make an informed decision. Also, check out the links down below for 15% off the DXP 4800 Plus. All right, folks, let's go on this magical journey together to see if we can save my wallets, my productivity, therefore my creativity, and perhaps my dignity with this little guy right here, the Ugreen NASync DXP 4800 Plus. Now, if you're wondering what a NAS system is, this is the simplest way I can explain it, and I promise I did not use ChatGPT for this. Imagine the NASync is your own personal cloud. Instead of storing your files on a cloud service like Google Drive or Dropbox and then pay them a monthly fees, but instead you can store all of your data locally on your own hard drives, but still access the data via the internet or your own home network. And you can also use a physical hardwired connection to plug directly into this unit, so accessing your data has never been easier. But the most important thing, and this is the thing that I care about, is the cost. Owning your own NAS unit like this and having your own hard drives and storing everything yourself is significantly cheaper, but it's still just as easy to access because you can access it through the internet or by a physical wired connection. And for me, this is exactly what I need. Now, the reason I decided to check out the DXP 4800 and work with Ugreen is because when I compared this unit to the other NASs on the market, the specs in this were significantly better. For example, it has an Intel 12th gen processor, which is way faster than the competing NAS. Plus, this NAS unit actually has 2 Ethernet ports built in as the default. One is a 2.5 gigabits per second port, the other one is a 10 gigabits per second port. And that's a big deal because normally you have to pay extra and buy extra accessories to get a 10 gigabit port in your NAS unit. So this is a massive win and a huge price saving. Now, another thing that really caught my eye with this unit are the ports and how fast these ports are. It has a USB-C 3.2 port on the front that's generation 2 and a normal USB 3.2 generation 2 port, and both of these ports should reach a theoretical speed of 10 gigabits per second, which is as fast as the Ethernet port on the back of this unit. And one thing that photographers are really going to appreciate is that it also has an SD card reader on the front, which is great. Now, something I really like about the Ugreen NAS and something about Ugreen in general is that they let you use any hard drive you want in their system. You don't have to buy an expensive proprietary drive, which usually is a regular drive with just a label. You know what company I'm talking about. They actually have an approved hard drive list on their website that has almost every major dealer or every major brand or type of hard drive that you could possibly want. So here's what I'm planning to do for this unit. I've got 4 20 terabyte mechanical hard drives, which, if my math is right, and it usually is 80 terabytes of mechanical hard drive space. But the amount that we can actually use and store data on will depend on how we set up our NAS rate. And I've also got 2 1 terabyte SSDs to set up an SSD cache that should help the NAS unit access files and offload files and just do everything with files a lot faster. Now, if you don't want to use slower mechanical hard drives, you can also use 2.5-inch SATA SSDs, which are a lot faster, but more expensive as well. Now, important to note is that I paid for these hard drives myself. So this is not an influencer getting a free joyride. I paid for all of this myself, and somewhere here on the screen, we're gonna post my receipts with my name, legal name on here, so you guys know that this is not me taking a joyride. I'm actually paying for these hard drives, and Ugreen only sent me this unit. Now, this is important for 2 reasons. One, it lets me know how much value per dollar am I really getting for the hard drive space that I'm paying for. But second, Because I paid for all of this myself, I think you'll notice that I'm a lot more thoughtful on how I rate the performance of the hard drives and the units. I'm going to be very critical on whether or not the performance for what I paid for is actually worth it, and I'm not just going to be endlessly hyping something up. So with that being said, I have talked enough. Let's start installing these hard drives. And actually getting these hard drives in there is super easy. I'll be honest, I was really nervous about installing these hard drives because while I do consider myself a techie, I am very prone to accidents. But I did practice before sharing this part of the experience with you guys because I figured it was valuable to share this with you guys because this is what you'll be in store for if you decide to pick up one of these units. So Ugreen gives you this metal tool that you put into the front of your NAS, unlock it, push it in, the hard drive bay just comes right out, and installing the mechanical hard drives is actually completely toolless. There's a button on the back, you press it, it expands this, you take the hard drive, you make sure the pins are facing out, you put it in, and make sure it's in there snug, and then you close it. And then you put it in, that's it. Like, that was so much easier than what I was expecting, and if you're nervous about installing hard drives, you don't have to be, it's shockingly easy. Now, if you don't want to use slower mechanical hard drives, you can also use 2.5-inch SATA SSDs, which are a lot faster, but more expensive as well. And there's also 2 ports for SSDs at the bottom of this unit for your SSD cache, which I've already installed, mainly because SSDs are so thin and I just had a feeling I was going to have an accident, and I actually dropped one of them during the installation process. So I'm kind of glad I did that, otherwise I'd be crashing out live on camera for you guys right now. So there are 4 20 terabyte mechanical hard drives in here and 2 1 terabyte SSDs. Now, with that being said, let's go plug in our NAS. The way that I'm going to set my unit up is I'm going to use the 2.5 gigabits per second port to plug directly into the internet in my home network. Because my internet is only 1 gigabits per second up and down, and I think the wiring can only handle 2 gigabits per second in general, so it makes more sense to reserve the 10 gigabits per second Ethernet port to plug directly into my computer, which I'm going to do via the Thunderbolt to Ethernet port adapter. So let's go check that out. All right, next up, I've got the NAS connected to my home network to the internet, and now we're going to actually set up the NAS and initialize it so we can start using it. I'm a little bit nervous because usually when it comes to things like this, I always run into technical issues, but I'm also very excited because if this all goes well, this is the first step to dramatically turning my data management life around. So let's get into it. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to find.ugnas.com, and once you do that, it should pop up and it should show you the NAS you have available. Now, on my side, you'll notice that I actually have 2 available. I have a feeling that this is because my computer is both connected to the NAS through the internet and through the hardwired Ethernet connection that I have for the 10 gigabits. So I'm going to pick the first one and let's connect to it. Now it's going to ask me to pick a name for my NAS, and I'm going to give this thing a super cool name, something radical, something interesting, something that plays on the things that I like. I can't think of anything. So River NAS. The most boring thing in the world. I thought about Avengers Tower, I thought about Metal Gear Solid reference, just could not think of anything cool. And from here, I just simply put in my username and password, went through the process, and it was super simple. And just like that, I'm done. I have the NAS initialized. That was the easiest thing in the world, and I was like so confident that I was going to run into issues. And also, this presentation is super nice. Like, based on everything that I'm seeing, this looks like it actually has like the workflow and like the setup of an actual computer. I can install apps on here. I've got a control panel. I've got an app center or like an app store equivalent for like a phone. I can even change my wallpaper. This is incredible. Like, this literally feels like it's an actual computer, which makes sense because it does have a processor. So like, first of all, that was a super easy setup. 2, this feels really cool. I'm so excited to dive into this. Next up, we're going to go into the storage pool, and we're going to create a storage pool here. So I'm going to pick the 4 main mechanical hard drives that I have, and you'll notice that I only have 18.1 terabytes in each of these drives because even though it's technically a 20 terabyte drive, The usable space on each drive is only 18.1 terabytes. So I'm going to pick 4 of these. And I have a couple of RAID options now. I'm going to go with RAID 5, and you'll notice that I only have 54.5 terabytes out of the 72 terabytes that I should have available to me. And this is because I have 4 hard drives in this RAID system. So if one of the hard drives fails, I can simply swap out that one drive because that is the drive for redundancy, and it should be fine. So any of those 4 drives can fail and I will be just fine. This is the one that I'm going to go with, and we're going to create it. I'm going to format everything, type in my password that my editor totally knows now. Now, it is going to take some time for all of the hard drives to start working together and for the whole system to be optimized. So this will take some time. I've been told it takes about a day or so we'll have to come back to it. So the NAS unit is finally ready to go with the hard drives optimized and synced up. And the first thing I want to try out is how fast can I offload files to the NAS versus Google Drive. So let's do that right now. So right here I have a 35.21 gigabyte file. I think that's a very fair size, and boom. Let's see, we're at 20 seconds right now. And that took approximately 1 minute, 33 seconds, and 72 milliseconds. Now let's see how fast that is if we compare it to Google Drive. It says 5 hours and 12 minutes, but that's obviously going to speed up. Okay, so we're already past 2 minutes, so I'm going to stop the test here, but the NAS is significantly faster because with the NAS, I actually have a much faster connection to the NAS than I do to the cloud. But I do want to show you guys that I do have a pretty fast upload connection of 937 megabits per second. It's just that most cloud services do limit your upload speed no matter what service you use. Also, if you ever need to connect to Google Drive, you can simply use the Cloud Drive tool. And with this, you can set up a direct upload to a specific folder on your Google Drive, or set up a direct download from your Google Drive to a specific folder on your NAS. And you can even sync your Google Drive and NAS unit for a cloud backup. And this is a useful tool if you ever need to migrate all of your data from Google Drive to your NAS unit, or you need to set up a cloud backup when replacing your Ugreen NAS device. Now, speaking of cloud services, another great benefit of the NAS is that you can access all of your files remotely even when you're not at home or connected to your network. So let's try that out next. So I just came back from a photo walk, shot a bunch of stuff, and now I want to make sure I get this footage to my editor as fast as possible. But as you can see, I'm not home right now. I'm actually at my girlfriend's house, and I know what you're thinking. I'm also surprised that I have a girlfriend, but we have to upload these files. So what I'm actually going to do is I've now added Norbert, my editor, as a user on my NAS. So I can simply go into my folders here, go over to user folders, go to Big Norby, and now I've got a folder in here called Photo Walk, and I can simply go to my card, which is about 3.39 gigabytes, drop this here, and immediately it will start uploading to my NAS. Now, the speed of this upload will depend on a few things. How fast is the internet at my home? How fast is the internet at my girlfriend's house? Here, I'm getting about 100 megabits per second for the upload and 270 megabits per second for the download, so it's not going to be super fast, but I'm basically able to get these photos to my editor right after my photo walk. And the best part is I can now go home and access these files right away because they're already going to be on my NAS. It's all going to OneDrive, and he's going to have access whenever he wants, and I can work off these files whenever I want. And this is just going to save me time in the aggregate. Over the next 2-3 years, I'm going to save a lot of hours. And another really cool thing about this is that I don't just have to use my laptop to access these files. I can also open up the Ugreen app on my phone, log into my NAS through my phone, and once that's done, I can simply go to Files, go to User folder, Big Norby is right there, go to the Photo Walk folder, go into that, and all of the files that I've uploaded are now there. And you might notice, not only can I look at my JPEGs in here, but I can also look at my RAW files. In this case, it's the .cr3 files, and it's going to show you a low-res preview, but I simply click View Original Photo. It will download the full RAW file that I can not only save to my phone and edit off my phone, but then I have access to that file pretty much anywhere I want. And the Ugreen software supports multiple types of RAW formats. I'm going to put all of them on the screen right here because I don't want to say them all. But basically, this process will work with pretty much any camera you're using. And there's also a brilliant photo app with the NAS unit that actually uses local AI models to categorize and help you search your photos. For example, I can categorize people by their faces. So if I ever want to look up photos of a specific model I worked with, I can simply look them up and see all of the photos with them in it. And I can also search for other common things like dog and see all of my cute dog photos in seconds. And you can also train your own model with 10 photos of a specific subject. I just realized there are so many times when I'm out of the house, at my girlfriend's house, visiting my parents, and I need to go home simply to make a YouTube thumbnail because all of my thumbnail files are on my big external drive at home. But now with the NAS, I can pretty much work on my projects from anywhere in the world, and I don't have to be tied down to a physical location. This is going to take a lot of stress off of me and also save me a lot of time when it comes to commuting. And when I'm at home, I can basically stream all of my files from my NAS over the Wi-Fi, just like if I was plugged into a physical hard drive. So right now, I have nothing plugged into my laptop. As you can see, these ports are empty. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go into Lightroom, add folder, go into my NAS, go into Camera Raw, CN Tower photos, and just like that, I can import all of these photos right into Lightroom. And the coolest thing is, like, I'm expecting a huge delay here, but there's really not. It's working just about as fast as I would expect from a normal hard drive. Now, depending on the size of your folder, this will probably change how fast these files load in or the resolution of your photos. But right now, I've got all these photos right here. I'm gonna go in here, rotate all of them. And let's just go with the raw Canon file. This is 24 megapixels. And let's just start editing it. Now, this edit probably will not be great because I'm also in the middle of making this video. But everything here is like responsive, just the way it would be if I was on my local hard drive. Let's do a little bit of color grading. Let's mess with these colors a little bit and give it an expired film look. Now, probably a terrible edit, but for me, I hate working at my desk. I'd rather work off my couch, hang out with my dog, and being able to edit all of my photos and just stream them over Wi-Fi. Everything is super responsive. I can scroll through things. Nothing is laggy. I would much rather work this way, and I'm so happy that this NAS allows for that. But you know, on second thought, it's not the worst edit in the world. However, if I want to do something more serious with large video files, I probably need to be at my desk. So let's see how the performance of that is. So now I have my computer directly plugged into the NAS, and I want to see how this performs for actual editing for high-end projects. So I'm using some Red RAW footage, some Nikon RAW footage, 8K and 6K mix. I'm not doing any 4K and 1080p because most things can handle 4K and 1080p now. So first up, if we just go through this timeline, I've got a slight grade on these clips that should be making the computer work a little bit faster or a little bit harder, but everything plays back perfectly normal. There's really no issues. And I can also scrub through this timeline without any jittering and whatnot. And you'll notice when I play through the timeline, there's no drop frames up here whatsoever. Like, I'm really impressed with just like how smooth it is to edit and like playback on the timeline. But let's take a look at what it's like to go through the raw footage itself. So right here, we've got a raw R3D 6K clip at 24 frames per second, 0 drop frames. Everything's playing back very, very smoothly, and scrubbing through it, super duper easy. No issues whatsoever. And taking a look at some Nikon RAW 8K footage, plays back perfectly fine at 24 frames per second. No drop frames whatsoever. However, I did notice one thing is that when I'm playing back Nikon RAW at 60 frames per second in 8K, it does drop frames and it does have trouble keeping up. However, that's pretty typical. 8K 60 is pretty demanding, and most people are probably not shooting in 8K 60, and usually you're going to slow this footage down anyways, because over here on the timeline, I actually have the same Nikon RAW 8K 60 footage. If I play this back in my timeline, plays back perfectly smooth, no issues whatsoever. So when it comes to actually doing the editing test and seeing if this NAS can keep up with high-end editing, I would say it passes. If I had to use this for a big project, and I totally plan to, this will not hamper my workflow or slow me down whatsoever. I'm super excited to start editing on this NAS.
So here's my honest conclusion about the DXP 4800 Plus, the good and the bad, and I'll be brief. The NAS unit itself is phenomenal. It is so fast when plugged in. I love being able to work all of my photos over Wi-Fi, and remote access is an actual game changer for me. But I have one small piece of criticism. As someone that's brand new to NAS units, I was a little intimidated. But as you saw in this video, it's not that hard to use. It's a really simple process. However, I think Ugreen could have helped this by having some sort of introductory video that shows me everything the NAS can do, and having step-by-step tutorials directly on the NAS that I could follow for more advanced features like SMB services and remote access. This would have greatly cut down on my anxiety, and I think it would have made the learning curve for the NAS a little bit shorter. The unit itself is fantastic. It just takes a little bit of learning, and if you're thinking of picking one up, you can also get 15% off with the links down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.